game industry has proven that it can make a character out of anything. So naturally, plants have made many appearances in gaming and have been presented in many ways, from characters to boss fights. Surprisingly though, there are only a handful of plants in video games that actually leave a significant impression and are at least memorable to a degree. That being said, the members of the gaming family have teamed up to find the best examples of video game flora, and are here once again to bring you the top 10 greatest video game plants. Now, a few ground rules. Any plant is eligible, whether fictional or based on a real plant, just as long as it is acknowledged in the game. And as usual, only one per franchise. Gentlemen, let's get right to it.
Plants vs. Zombies is a fantastic game. It's one of my favorite puzzle games, with the Legend series being behind, and one of my favorite games of all time. It combines something that is almost shit your pants scary and puts humor in it by adding one of the last things you ever want to defend yourself in during the apocalypse. Plants. Well, you really need to give them credit. You stopped the end of the world using plants. F***ing plants!
I quit!
Well, if these plants are so powerful, how can you truly defeat them? Well, the source of power is a sunflower. The description of this guy is that the sunflower can't resist bouncing to the beat. What beat is that? Why, the life-giving jazzy rhythm of the earth itself, thumping at a frequency only the sunflowers can hear. That is awesome. It's at least better than another sunflower from another game. The main reason why the sunflower is on here and not any other plant from Plants vs. Zombies is because you actually need the sunflowers to go through the night stages due to no sunlight. And that you pretty much are if you don't plant any of these. The sunflowers only get better when you buy the double sunflowers. Double sunflowers all the way! And may I mention that the sunflowers can actually sing?
1, 2, 3. There's a zombie on your lawn. There's a zombie on your lawn. There's a zombie on your lawn. We don't want zombies on our lawn.
I really can't explain more. So if you're ever in a situation where a zombie is right in front of your house, grab some seeds and you'll save the world.
Knowing my love for Final Fantasy, you should have all seen this coming. Out of all the monsters in the Final Fantasy series, the cactuars are definitely the weirdest ones. I mean, they're cacti with derpy Shy Guy faces. Kinda strange if you ask me. These little guys first appeared as enemies in the desert areas in Final Fantasy VI, which also had a boss called the Gigantuar, which is a giant cactuar with a curly mustache. Interesting to say the least. Not to mention, once Gigantuar is defeated, he can be used as a summon, where he uses his famous 1000 Needles attack, in which he launches 1000 cactus needles at the opponent, in battle. Since then, cactuars have become as common as chocobos and moogles in the Final Fantasy series, appearing in several games of this series and even outside of the Final Fantasy series, specifically Mario Hoops 3-on-3 and Mario Sports Mix. The cactuars are definitely one of those things that you really shouldn't take seriously at all. Again, they're derpy living cacti, sometimes with mustaches. And with scenes like the cactuar counter in Final Fantasy XIII, it's near impossible to take these creatures seriously. Though it was pretty hard to take FF13 seriously at all with dialogue like,
Do something for me, will ya? Keep smiling. It makes me happy when you smile.
yeah, long lost all credibility, Square Enix.
I don't care what anyone says, the Legend of Spyro trilogy is f***ing awesome. In order to find this entry, we need to take a look at the second part of the trilogy, The Eternal Night. In the beginning of the game, Spyro mysteriously falls asleep. Not that way! On his dream, Spyro learns that this is the work of the ancient dragon called the Chronicler. He restores Spyro's fire abilities and shows a picture of tree before Spyro wakes up. After the invasion at the temple, a guardian dragon Ignitus sees the same tree on a pool of visions and sends Spyro to look for it. The tree was hidden somewhere deep in an uninhabited area called Ancient Grove. After beating some canine pirates and forest critters, Spyro finds this tree and then this happens.
Hello? I'm here. Give me a sign or something. It's my turn to pass out. You're on your own, buddy. Oh, brother.
Holy shit! Gentlemen, this is Arboric, one of the best Spyro bosses of the entire series. And let me tell you, this boss is really fun to beat up. On first phase, you have to shoot fireballs on Arboric's hands, feet and torso while dodging his kicks and punches. But you have to do this quickly, because if you don't, Arboric starts to spin his torso around and heals some of his body parts in the process. And you also have to watch the fireballs he sends back to you. After he's out of HP, he spins one more time and phase 2 will begin. In this phase, all you need to do is fire him wherever you can while dodging him. Once he's out of HP again, the fight is over and Spyro wonders why the Chronicler sends him there until the pirates take him away. In conclusion, Arboric is the great boss battle for a great game. And how did Spyro gone from this to this?
Fear me.
Oh god, run! Ah! I'm okay.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Not a game you'd think you'd find a decent plant in, right?
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. You're wrong.
Amingo was a character from a scrapped Capcom game that never had its title released. The only information we have on Amingo is the fact that he was searching for a mysterious wind that was sweeping across his land, killing every single plant. Vague, but quite interesting to say the least. Hey Capcom, you say you're running out of ideas? Here's a great one! Now on to Amingo himself in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. He is a low tier character, but when used right, he can be a deadly addition to your team, which is why I nicknamed him the Battle Cactus. In Marvel vs. Capcom 2, he only has 2 hyper combos, one of which is being the anti-air vine, which turns Amingo into a giant vine drilling up.
Yours is the drill that will break through the vault of heaven!
Amingo's second hyper combo is the hyper plant grab, which he grabs you with a bell sprout looking plant and throws you inside of him. Yeah. And shakes around. Yeah, I don't understand it either. Amingo's assists are pretty simple yet effective, as he either A, boosts your health, B, boosts your defense, or C, turns into a ball and rolls into your opponent. To sum it all up, as long as you take your time to learn him, you'll have your own Amingo Battle Cactus.
You know, I've always loved Cave Story. It's been a game I've been trying to mention for a while, but it's none of my favorite games, it's none of my favorite VGMs and all that, but, you know, it's still one of those games I really enjoy playing every once in a while. But there is a plant in this game that is very scary if you think about it. That are the red flowers. Great grandmother. Now, you might be saying, Sophie, what? What is this madness? Oh, flowers? This is stupid. You're in Scaredy Cat. Now, before you all go saying that, or whatever the heck you say, screw you. How exactly? The red flowers can turn someone like this girl into, well, oh, god. Oh god! That's horrifying! Now you understand where I'm at. Anyways, I don't want to do a huge spoiler of the game, but let me just say this. There's a certain character that you'll hate because of how he uses it, and he makes a red crystal. You'll hate him right when you see what he does. And in all honesty, the red flowers are actually quite mentioned throughout the whole game. I mean, at least in every town, you'll at least see something involving a little bit of the red flower. And it's just scary just thinking that a little flower could do such harm.
What can be said about The Legend of Zelda? It is the most adventurous franchise of all time, and one of Nintendo's most loved franchises overall. Behind Super Mario and Pokémon, of course. In this series there's a lot of plants. We have the Deku-nuts, the Baba plants, and many more, but these are mostly just enemies with no backstory nor personality whatsoever. Then we have the Deku Tree. The Deku Tree is a large tree with a mustache? I don't get it either. In the beginning of the game, Navi has to wake up the lazy Link because the Deku Tree wants to talk to him. Once you get a sword and a shield, Link is allowed to enter the woods where the Deku Tree is waiting for him. The tree seems to have a curse and will slowly die out. There was an evil man who gave him this curse. I wonder who that might be. So Link needs to get inside him and stop it. Then we already come to the first dungeon of the game. This dungeon is fairly easy with no hard puzzles and extremely easy enemies. Though the scenery here is gorgeous, it's all green everywhere and it certainly fits the atmosphere of a tree. Once you reach the end of the dungeon, you're granted with one of the easiest Zelda bosses in history. Though it is the first boss, so it is understandable. Kill the Goma Queen and return out of the Deku Tree. Once you're outside, it turns out there's nothing Link could have done, and the Deku Tree rottens to death. But there's still another Zelda game that includes the Deku Tree. In the Wind Waker, the Deku Tree appeared again, but not much has changed on him. His goal is still to protect the spirits living in the forest. But one thing. Why did they have to kill his mustache?
One of the most interesting species of plants is the Venus flytrap. Why? These things are actually carnivorous, and when they move in and strike at their prey, I would guarantee you that it's not going to be pretty. Obviously, video games have tons of potential with a plant as awesome as the Venus flytrap, and the series that use it at its best is the Mario series. No, not those annoying asses known as the piranha plants. I'm talking about their unofficial leader, Petey Piranha. Created through a mutation of unknown sources, Petey Piranha is one of the most popular bosses in the Mario series, and since he comes from the most famous video game franchise there is, you were kind of expecting him to appear on this list, and in a very high spot at that. Physically, Petey obviously resembles a piranha plant, but with a lot of changes added to the mix. Sure, he's got red hair with all the white spots, but Petey has green lips and a bunch of petals around his head. Unlike most piranha plants, Petey doesn't need to stay in the warp pipe and can legitimately move freely on two small pointy feet. Despite being a plant, Petey is tall and can even be gigantic in some games, such as in his first appearance, Super Mario Sunshine. Another thing Petey has that normal piranha plants don't have is arms, which are actually huge leaves. And trust me, those leaves are very powerful and they provide a lot of strength for this creature, making him one of the strongest characters in the Mario series to date. Not only that, but he can also fly using those leaves. If that isn't called being impressive, I don't know what is. Like most Mario characters, Petey doesn't have a personality to speak of. All we know is that he acts like a stereotypical brawn over brains character, having tons of strength but is unintelligent for the most part. That still doesn't mean that he isn't a terror to face. I mean, in most of the sports spin-offs, he appears as an unlockable character, and he is usually one of the last ones to get unlocked. The methods are most of the time pretty damn hard. Especially in Mario Strikers Charge, where you literally had to face him in a soccer match, and he is one tough plan to beat. So, PD Piranha is on this list due to being iconic amongst other video game plants, and he is the proof that you should not mess around with any vegetable-like creatures. Oh yeah, and he can do this.
Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style. Oppan Gangnam Style.
What happens when you cross the concept of Super Mario 128, aliens, and the environment? You get Pikmin. Oh, Pikmin. Where to begin explaining these little guys? Well, I guess we could start by just looking at them. Now, when you look at Pikmin, you usually think something like this. That really sucks. This world's gonna be so stubborn and... Well, you really shouldn't underestimate them. In fact, in numbers, they're a force of nature. Seriously, you can kick some serious ass with them in the games. Pikmin are born inside an onion. Well, it's not really an onion, it's just what Olimar calls it, so it really has no official name. Pikmin beat their enemies and pellets, then bring them back to the onion. Then the onion proceeds to harvest amounts of Pikmin from the corpses of dead, rotting bodies. Jesus Christ, Miyamoto. How much creepy sick is going through that head of yours? Anyway, Pikmin also have 3 different levels: Leaf, Bud, and Flower. Leaf Pikmin are the worst Pikmin. They're slow, they're weak, and they're crap. Bud are pretty much, you know, your typical in-between stuff, and then Flowers are the best, being the powerful and faster Pikmin. There are 2 ways you can get your Pikmin from a Leaf Pikmin into a Flower Pikmin. One is that when you're harvesting Pikmin, you can leave them in the ground instead of plucking them. Leave them in the ground for a little while, and then they will eventually evolve into Bud, then Flower. Or you can instantly rank them up to a Flower by using Nectar, which can be found in grass, eggs, or metites. Now let's start talking about the different types of Pikmin there is in the Pikmin universe. First off, there are red Pikmin. Now in Pikmin 1, they are by far the best type of Pikmin to have. They have more attack power than other Pikmin, a 1.5 times multiplier to be exact. And they are immune to fire, which is everywhere in the forest navel. But apart from that, everything else is average. Also, in Pikmin 2, they are easily the worst type of Pikmin, considering all the fire geysers in Pikmin 1 are now destroyable. Next, we have yellow Pikmin. Yellow Pikmin differ between Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2. In Pikmin 1, they're the lightest, and as such can be thrown the highest, and they can carry the deadly weapon, Bomb Rocks. That's it really. In Pikmin 1, yellow Pikmin are by far the least useful Pikmin to have. However, in Pikmin 2, they retain their high throwing ability, but lose their ability to carry Bomb Rocks, due to their big size in Pikmin 2. However, for losing their Bomb Rock ability, they gain immunity to electricity, by far the most dangerous hazard. Then there are blue Pikmin. Blue Pikmin are one of 2 types of Pikmin able to be submerged in water and completely survive from it. Blue Pikmin have a sort of mouth-like gill thing on them which makes them able to breathe in water. However that makes sense, I don't know. If a Pikmin is drowning, however, the blue Pikmin, if idle, will jump into the water and toss it out, which is really helpful, though it can be tossed into another patch of water in which it will die. Because of their immunity to water, this makes blue Pikmin a very important ally, and as such it is debatable that these type of Pikmin are the most useful Pikmin to have in Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2. So next up we have one of the 2 new types of Pikmin introduced in Pikmin 2, the purple Pikmin. Man, these fat gits are awesome. First off, by just looking at them, you can tell they're going to be powerful. And they are. They do double the amount of damage red Pikmin do, and 3 times that of other Pikmin. They are also required to get every treasure, as they carry the weight of 10 regular Pikmin. However, due to their overpowered stats, they're really slow, and can't be thrown far, and have absolutely no weaknesses apart from being blown away from puffy blowhogs. However, when they are thrown, they do a ground pound onto the ground, causing a shockwave. If thrown onto a small enemy, it will insta-kill it, and if thrown onto a big one, it'll stun it. Purple Pikmin are very good for taking out bosses too. The most notable boss of this is the Water Wraith. Purple Pikmin, however, to keep you from getting so many, can only be made by sacrificing 5 Pikmin of any kind to get 5 Purple Pikmin via violet candy pop buds. Purple Pikmin also gain points for not being affected by the fear these little shits give other Pikmin. God, I hate Metites. For the next type of Pikmin, we have White Pikmin. White Pikmin are, in my opinion, the best type of Pikmin to have. White Pikmin, like Purple Pikmin, can only be created through ivory candy pop buds, which makes sense due to how useful they are. White Pikmin are the smallest type of Pikmin, and as such are the most mobile, as when given the shoe upgrade, are the only type of Pikmin able to catch up with you. White Pikmin also have big beady red eyes, which makes them look really cute. However, these eyes are not just for show, as they are actually like X-ray scopes. What do I mean by this? I mean they can see stuff hidden underground. White Pikmin are also toxic, being completely immune to poison hazards. But by far one of their best abilities is when they get eaten. When they do, since they are toxic, deal heavy damage via poison to the enemy. This ability is really useful if you're in a pinch, but it really should just be used as a last resort method.
Flamingo Hat! Pokemon is a series filled to the brim with plants. There are obstacles that are plants, there are moves that are plants, there are items that are plants, and of course, there are the Pokemon themselves that are plants. Most of the plant Pokemon can range from at worst to amazing at best. But my personal favorite goes to the Generation 4 evolution of the Generation 3 Pokemon Roselia, Roserade. Oh boy, where do we even begin of how awesome this thing is? Well, first, it improved on what used to be a really meh Pokemon and turned it into one of the best grass and poison types around. Going from a base stat total of 400 all the way up to 505, even higher than Pokemon like Ampharos and Gengar. It can learn some great moves too, like Petal Dance, Energy Ball, Toxic Spikes, and my personal favorite, Solar Beam! The design is based on a bouquet of roses and the mysterious pattern of a masquerade ball. Also, in the anime, Roserade is Bank Shishigami! So, in conclusion, Roserade is a great Pokemon to your team. Great stats, a good design, and overall, Pokemon itself, Roserade is one of the best evolutions in Generation 4.
Before I announce number 1, I just want to let you guys know that the judgment of this list was through a collective effort of the gaming family. I had no intention of even being a part of this countdown to begin with, but the family not only chose who number 1 would be, but thought it best that I discuss the entry. Number 1 is from League of Legends, Zyra, Rise of the Thorns. Now at first glance, many will say that she's not a plant, rather a sorceress with plant powers. To that, I say let's look at her backstory. Centuries before the time of the League, Zyra belonged to a race of plants that ruled the Plague Lands, who lived by feeding on wild animals. However, their unending need for food eventually led to the extinction of animals in the Plague Lands, and Zyra's kind started to wither away until she was the last one alive. It wasn't until a wandering sorceress appeared where she finally could satisfy her hunger. But instead of consuming the sorceress, she found herself taking over her body, making it a host to keep herself alive. That sorceress is not Zyra. Zyra is actually the vines that surround her, and the body is now a vessel to her conscience. Now that backstory is out of the way, let's talk about her gameplay. Zyra is a ranged mage that excels at crowd control. Her passive, Rise of the Thorns, allows her to turn into a missile-spitting flower upon death. Her regular abilities include Deadly Bloom, a spell that sends out damaging thorns and spawn thorn spitters from the seed she places. Rampant growth allows her to spawn seeds that can turn into said thorn spitters and are excellent for scouting and reducing her cooldown times. Grasping Roots sends out vines that stun enemies and turn any seeds into vine lashers. And finally, her ultimate, Strangle Thorns, sends out a myriad of vines that damage enemies and knock them into the air. Additionally, any plants that are hit by this are granted a burst of attack speed. Zyra is the one you want on the team if you want to dish out damage quickly and to keep the team safe from gank ambushes, but she can also hold her own with her army of vicious plants. Zyra takes the #1 spot not just for how great a champion she is, but her backstory is incredibly creative, even among the likes of Ahri and Fiddlesticks. With an army of lethal flora and an incredibly creative and admittedly disturbing backstory, Zyra takes the name as the #1 greatest plant in video game history. This has been the Gaming Family. Until next time.
Video games! Let's go! Samba de Amigo! Oh my god, and he taunts after. He's such a dick. You're such a dick, you big cactus. God.